Hey, you Evangelize members, Lisa Canning here. I wanted to pop in real quick. I've just got out of my regular spiritual direction with my wonderful priest, Father Damien, and I always have such ahas. It's more like boot camp that I always want to share with you guys because I just feel like we speak the same language here and you evangelize. And so it was interesting. This time I came to him with a little bit of frustration and impatience regarding just evangelization efforts in my own personal life. I was basically lamenting to him that, gosh, like, I don't really do enough. I feel like, there's so many people who work in ministry, who do these like great elaborate plans. I think of people who are missionaries with CCO who have these really awesome, literally like almost formulas in a way, like, or structures maybe is a better way to say it. Where they're following specific steps like Discovery Series, where they receive training in the sort of most appropriate ways to the word that they would use is disciple or accompany people in their journey to knowing and loving Jesus and his church. And so I was kind of lamenting to my spiritual director. I was like, gosh, like I am intentional about so many areas in my life, but I feel like I'm not really intentional here. And he basically was like, whoa, 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 whoa. And it's hard to describe his personality without sounding, how do I say? He's a very, he is very straight up with me. And he literally was like, whoa, 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 hold the phone. And he just really spoke some wisdom as well as like hard truth, to be honest, in the sense that like, you can have all the plans in the world, but if you are not following the will of God, and if you are allowing your pride to be too much a part of all those plans, then that is not good. And that is not what God wants from us. And so it was really interesting because I really wrestled with what he said. And I was like, but like, don't you think intentionality is important? And it's interesting. We just filmed, an amazing expert interview with Tim Glemkowski, who runs you could call it like a consulting firm for parishes in Chicago called the Lalto Catholic Institute. And he shares their 5-step approach to getting parishes to become more missionary and create missionary disciples. It's an amazing 5-step approach, and I really encourage you to go and check it out. But I was like, well, what about like all these things? And again, my spiritual director very patiently, but very firmly was like, all these tools are good, but they're for nothing if you are not listening to the will of God in your life. And so what I would love to just provide, like our webinar this month in January, if you recall, and feel free to go watch the replay again in your member portal, was all about becoming closer to Jesus, especially as we start the new year. How can we draw closer to Jesus? How can we know him better? How can we proclaim him better? But it all was about like Jesus and knowing him. And so I would encourage anyone in our membership community who also gets frustrated, and feel free to type in the comments below, like, are you like me? Like, do you get frustrated? Do you sometimes like look at the state of your church or look at the state of your community and just be like, oh my gosh, like I just got to do something. I have to do something. I have a feeling there's a lot of us here who feel that way because you're part of our community. You care about the state of our church. You care about bringing people to Jesus. You want people to know the good news. You want our church to remain relevant. And so feel free to type that in the comments below if that's you too, if you feel the same frustration that I do, and sometimes the same impatience. But what my spiritual director really spoke a lot of truth into me today was that we have to remember that the pursuit of holiness is the most crucial step. The pursuit of holiness is the first step in any strategic plan and work of evangelization. And I know I can sometimes just get too caught up in the plan and fail to realize that your first real pursuit, the first crucial step, is this pursuit of holiness. So again, I just want to encourage and provide support that if you too get impatient, to remember that let's start with Jesus, and let's start with prayer, and let's start with quiet time. It was interesting too, he mentioned to me, like, what does Jesus do in the Bible so often as the first thing in his day? And I was like, okay, I know. But pray, right? And I don't know, I again, like, just in the busyness of life, I know it can be very challenging. But I want to just really, like, encourage us all to think of ways that perhaps we can be more recollected in the day. What are some ways that we can give God just a little bit more of our time, especially in prayer? And what my director said to me today was like, what is the greatest prayer of all the prayers in our church? He was like, the one that comes from your heart, the one that just comes from an authentic, quiet, conversational place. And so, you know, if you struggle with finding more time to pray, just start there. Oh, my word. Blessings to everybody here at our You Evangelize community. Check out this month's expert interview, and feel free to rewatch the webinar that Michael and I hosted this month while my husband was sick earlier in the month. And we'll catch you next week for our next live webinar. All right, guys, have a great day. God bless.